facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating, especially you. I'm so grateful that we're on this Win-Win Women platform, and with we're live streaming, we're on podcasts with Podetize, and it's just been a huge journey. I'm really excited to have you join us and to be, I'm very honored when someone take the time to take a listen and see what we've got going and maybe get some encouragement, which is what we love to do, offering hope and encouragement. I have an incredible guest today, and I'm going to introduce her in a moment, Elian Haan. However, I love to just do our little 22-second mini vacation right before we get started. It's a little mini meditation, helps us take a deep breath and get more centered and settled. So if you want to join me, we're going to breathe in for 7 seconds. We're going to breathe in calm, and we're going to hold for 4 seconds, and we're going to breathe out gratitude for 11 seconds. So here we go. Breathing in calm. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Helps me a lot. And I think we could all use a little bit more of that centering every single day, several times a day, probably. So thank you for joining me. I've got Elian Haan as my guest today. She is another show host with Win-Win Women, and her show is Elian's Joy. And she's fun and funny. We got to meet in person and just sisters, just hit it off so well, having so much fun. And on this journey of helping others figure out who they are, figure what they're doing, and let's all win-win. That's the way we do it. And I'm going to say this. She wrote an incredible book. There it is. 60 minutes to Neiman's, 60 miles to Neiman, from Neiman's. Okay, give one or the other. Yeah. And it's a great, fun read, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I want you to just tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about what you do.
I am so glad to be here, Charla, my friend, my dear. I'm very glad to be here today on your show. What fun. Yes, we connected immediately, and I love that about our platform and caring and socializing with each other. Lots of communication, supporting each other. So this is a great platform. I'm always glad to be seen and be heard and share. And it started for me all with sharing my story. Basically, most of my life, career-wise, I've been in the fitness and wellness industry as a coach and help people through movement, most of it, right? Exercise, movement. And then I slowly, which came in really handy for myself as well as we get older, I slowly kind of moved into the slower space of mind, body, spirit, and more meditation, like you just gave us, a nice deep breath and a minute to reset. I worked with people a lot, of course, through yoga. And I really became more involved with people because they had lots of the people that I worked with for a long time had lots of trauma and issues and past. And I really started applying my stories and helping people, not just through trauma-informed yoga or breathing techniques or meditation, but also through talks, right? I just became a life coach. I'm a midlife and transformation coach, as I like to call my niche, working with people that are still there, getting stuck and all that. And of course, I was stuck in the past because I jotted it all down and journaled a lot. I didn't speak a lot about me. So I was a good listener, but not you know how that works. Sometimes you just are not ready to share that. In the past, I say the last 10 years, of course, I've done that in my work now. But I wrote a lot of things down, and that's where that book came from. At the same time, I had time. And it kind of like had two reasons. My book came from me thinking, I'm now an empty nester. We're home alone. I have the time, but I also have to write my story down for my son because, right, last one out to college. And I had to tell my son my story of my life. And I realized that if they're young, they don't care. They're just in their own life, right? They're just in their 20s and in their 30s. And who cares what mom had done in her life? So, when you're older, you start asking those questions. In my case, I had a lot of trauma there from my parents passing away when I was young. And I didn't really have that reflection and that home base, that support system. So I thought, what if something happens to me in my 50s or 60s? Then I want to write that story for him. So I really wanted to leave that legacy for him. And I started writing, and a lot of the journaling and thought processing and stuff that I had done, self-help work, that all came together in that book. So it became a bio, but it also became, this is what I did wrong, and now I know the right thing, and these are the life lessons, right?
So
So
your book is you're not from the United States originally. You're from.
I'm from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I moved in my mid-30s to the United States with my then American husband.
So there, your story is so colorful, and it's a real blessing for your children to have a legacy, to know the story ultimately, and to know where you came from and how you survived and you thrived, and you get to, I think we're in a place now where we are just, I ain't stopping,
yeah,
I know, we're both in the sixth decade, and I'm
yes,
pushing seventh very
yeah.
soon, and this year,
And
and
see that.
and so we ain't stopping.
Right,
We got so much to share, and so much, we earned every single one of these. I did the silver hairs the hard way, and yours isn't silver, yours is beautiful blonde. But I know a lot of things, and I want to share it, and I know you do too. And so, coming from that story, you really had a very challenging and colorful
yeah,
upbringing or past,
yeah.
and had businesses and had an incredible fun story. So everything is about you is fun and funny and happy and all that now, but it wasn't always that way.
It
And
wasn't always that way.
no, and we've made a few wrong turns here and there, and
You, absolutely. More than
and here we are back back. We're
yeah.
still walking. We're still actually punching through. So one question about the book is the title, 60 Miles from Neiman's.
Yeah, so I had a lot of people ask me where the title came from, and it was because I had a friend. I had a good friend, and she was also my coach for a while in my acting, stage life, film, entertainment industry that I dabbled in for a while. She was my coach. She was a very good coach, wonderful instructor, or coach, I should say, not instructor, that helped me with auditions, helped me with acting skills. And she was also very honest and very straightforward. When I moved away from Dallas, I moved south of Dallas at some point, about 60 miles away from downtown. And I didn't go to her classes anymore, her acting classes and her coaching classes. And it was just too far away. I was going through a bad time in my life. I didn't have the money to spend. I didn't have gas money for a full Sunday up and down to Dallas. And for me, in those days, she wasn't playing. It was a little further, but it was a big deal just to do that. And I kind of let it slide away. And she would call me. We became really good friends afterwards, and we talked on the phone many times. And she passed away a few years ago. But Lee would always call me and say, "You moved 60 miles away from everything." And although I am not a Neiman Marcus person at all, I thought 60 miles from Neiman's, I am 60 miles from Neiman's. I'm exactly 60 miles away from everything, where everybody always thought everything happens there, right, in the city. I moved to the countryside and very happy to be there, of course, but I didn't have everything around. So she kept screaming at me, why are you doing that?
60
And
miles from Neiman's. I just think it's clever. It's so clever.
Yeah. And I thought that's a good title because somehow, I don't know about the Dutch, my family or the Canadians even, but in America, everybody knows where Neiman's is or what it is. They might not go, but they know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not a shopper, but any kind of shopper, much less Neiman's. Yeah. But the another question that came from reading your book, and I found this really intriguing and not very explained or touched on as deeply as I would have liked, because I think looking back, something happened that seems almost supernatural to how you actually were. Now tell the story about how the gentleman that showed up at you owned a bar at one time, so it showed up at your bar in
oh yes,
and how, I mean, that was so intriguing to me that some guy that
I wish I could have done more with it. I know that is a crazy story. He came and he left, and I was young. I was in my 20s. I own a bar, quite a large establishment with pool tables and billiard tables, and it was a kind of a student hall kind of thing, society, right? A lot of people would come there around 5, 6 o'clock, beer on tap, the whole bit. And I saw a gentleman coming in, and he was an American tourist. And I didn't get tourists really in the establishment. And he sat at the bar, and I always talked to everybody, of course. And he said, well, I'm American. And we just started talking. I don't even remember about what. This came back later as well. I was just stunned by the experience. But it was so crazy. I just talked for a while. Nothing. I had no plans leaving the relationship then that I had, or I didn't know that was going to be over at some point. We're talking 10 years later, where we're talking me having an established business and being a student at the same time. And I am, we talk, and he said, at some point, he just looked at me and he said, at some point, you're going to go to Texas. You're going to end up in the United States. I'm laughing, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
In Texas, not just the United States, but in Texas. Did he have a book, or did he write something?
He gave me James Michigan's book, Texas. He gave it to me, and he had it in his hands, and he gave it to me, and he said, I'm a shaman.
Shaman. He's a shaman.
What a shaman was. Yes.
I wouldn't have either.
And I wouldn't know at that time, what is it? I mean, it's somebody who sees, right? And has a deep intuition and could see my future. I couldn't, and I laughed, and I said, well, I'm very grateful. Of course, I was very grateful for a book, so much fun. Yes, I'm definitely gonna read it, but Texas was to me all about JR and Sue Ellen. I was not gonna go there, right? What am I gonna do with JR and Sue Ellen? That was all we had on television when it comes to Texas. So that was a really intriguing story. I can't do anything with it, Charla. I wish I knew who he was. I wish I would have asked the name. He came and he left. Had a beer.
And he left you the book called Texas by James Michener, who is like a 2-inch thick book, and it's hard to read. It's hard. I think the first most of his books I found very hard to read until you got to about the middle.
It is hard to read. And I even remember I gave it away at some points, but it's, or I didn't take it with me. I moved so many times. But the whole event later on, when I remembered, okay, this is weird. And what that exactly was, I don't know.
You had a prophetic word.
Yes.
I mean, here you are in Texas.
Absolutely.
Not only are you in Texas, you're in like Gun Barrel City. I mean, you're in the rural. You're in Texas, and you have and so I wanted to ask you this too. You've had and have, I think, still a brick and mortar yoga studio in rural Texas, which I find interesting
It was interesting, especially in the beginning for rural Texas. When I finally moved south of the city, it was really a must. In that time, not keeping up with the bills. I couldn't keep up with the Joneses in Dallas. And I was in the fitness industry. I made some money. I had some classes. I had some clients, but it wasn't really, I had side jobs. I did it all to survive. When I moved to the country, I didn't really like it either, but it was a lot cheaper. It was good for me at that point. I just found a little double wide, and it was just, yeah, I can finally breathe. And it was good, and I can start my business here. So I started a yoga studio, and I had no clue what was going on. And people came and, what is yoga? What is that? And in the beginning, it was very controversial, right? Because people thought it was clashing with Christianity, right? In the days when I started, and that was 2005. So what is yoga? And that is not for us. We can't do that. That is anti-religion. That is calling the devil in your house. And I was always trying to say, no, 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 no. I'm coming from a fitness background. It's really a kind of a fitness exercise approach that I do. Secondly, of course, at some point I opened the doors and some people came. So it became a popular hotspot for a lot of people to socialize, talk, and be with me and do classes, of course. I offered all kind of lots of variety of classes over the years. Then I started working with in an addiction facility, in a full-time inpatient addiction facility, addiction recovery. And I worked there for 8+ years. And then I kept my studio. I kept the classes, the few classes with the regulars, right? The people that are always with you and love to work out and do anything, a little bit stretch, a little cardio, a little this, a little that. And then we also have, and I have a practice here now, of course, as a life coach. So I see people one-on-one or do some groups. And yeah, so a little bit of everything. It all came together, right? It all came finally. I was all over
those puzzle pieces. I'm feeling like this is kind of my year too, where puzzle pieces are starting to find the reason that I've done all these different things and where they're landing. So I felt like that was so it sounds like that's kind of where you were, where all of a sudden you're very diverse past and acting and stage and theater and
it all comes together for me. It was always, I felt like I had to act, or I had to be in the industry, right, entertainment industry, or I had to be a fitness person, or I had to be a coach. I didn't see that. It was all the same thing. I am edutaining, right, to say it in Tony Robbins' way. I mean, I like to be on stage. I like to be in front of people. I like to be in front of the class. I like to help people with word, with movement. It's all the same. I'm just a coach. But I don't have to be or a wellness or a life coach. I'm a life and wellness coach, and I love to bring some joy and fun into it. So I can still act crazy and fun, right, while I'm doing all that. And it doesn't have to be either or. So
be right. You that's
right.
where I think we the thing that we can probably help a lot of people with is don't just give up trying to be somebody else or to please anybody else. Be your authentic self, and the rest will fall into place a lot easier without having all that, the struggle that people seem to be working on. I don't know.
That was a big part of your book, right? I'm so glad you mentioned that. A big part of my book, in a sense of escaping the feel that I always had to live according to other people's expectations. Is the subtitle of my book, letting go of these expectations, not trying to please others or kind of fall in place with the rest of the street, right? The wisteria lane, the mommies and the daddies and the barbecues and the front and backyard. And it's just all, that was not me, but it's also really hard to live up to expectations. When you're young, you do that for your parents. They want the best for you. You do that in a good situation, of course, right?
Finding your way back from others' expectations. Absolutely. And I hadn't remembered that. So that's
no, you're fine.
Piece.
And
you
brought it up in a sense of being ourselves, and just, I think that gets easier when you're older, not caring to march into that pattern or to march into these expectations, to live up to it or to do it, to be the best mom and be, because everybody else is around you, right? And be the
Well, and there's nothing wrong with having, role models or things like that. But yeah, to actually learn to live from your heart space instead of your head space.
Yeah.
Something, this is ancient story. When I was a teenager, my mom, went to the little church, and she said, one of the older ladies said, she loves being older because she can hug all the men and nobody thinks anything of it. I don't know why I thought of that, but
That's great. No, I love it.
yeah.
I love it.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's like my little book, Candy Bar Hugs. It doesn't take much to make a difference. I'm like, I can offer a hug to just about anybody and nobody's going to be offended. So you've got to have discernment. You may not be a good looking 40-year-old man offering hugs to the checkout clerks. Use discernment,
Yeah.
situational awareness, but
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. It comes with a form of respect and not caring and laughing through. I laugh my way through a lot of things if they're silly or slightly uncomfortable or right. It's just kind of like you can joke around it and care less what other people's opinions are. And secondly, I preach that right now with my clients and in my groups. So why do we even care what other people think? It's if they have the time to think about me and have an opinion about me, hey, I don't have that time, right? I don't have that. I'm just busy being hopefully the best I can be on a daily basis, and I can only do my best. And that's enough.
and humor is huge to be able to just
Yeah.
get over this, being offended by everything. I just am so done with all that. People, it's like, just laugh it off. It's not about, if people did anywhere near thought it. My mama said something along, if you knew how, if you're worried about what people think of you, you'd be so surprised how little they do, or something, some saying
No,
she had.
true, right? People don't know. They don't know what happens between our walls. We don't know what happens in the house. And I learned, especially working with people with trauma and huge history of devastating. We don't know. We look and we see and learning that people on the outside are not what happened to them or what happens to them currently or what they are going through. We have no idea. And I just like to say right now, I just leave it up to the Lord, because it's just not up to us to, all we can do is, just like you said, give everybody a hug and love on people, share warmth and share care. Sharing is caring, I always say, just, in a sense of physical as well, right? And it's really difficult right now to have this society where we live in, where especially with the COVID era and all that stuff, like you can't touch people, you can't really give them a little squeeze, even that. But our hands are our healing hands. Our hands are actually healing. That's how we do everything and make people feel okay. And a little tap on the shoulder, or holding ourselves right there, or fight and flight mechanisms, right? All that is all that warmth and that energy in your hands, and people are, and it's
we were born, if God can create it, he can heal it. And we were born with an immune system that is second to none. I mean, so yeah, so I think that the fear draws more angst than the germs, maybe, the fear of the germs. And I've noticed that for a long time. And, I was in elementary school and they would say, we've got good germs and bad germs. And if you kill all of them, then you don't have the good ones either that like to fight the bad ones. So anyway, that's a little extra there, bonus for somebody. But so I want you to
talk. Also a sign of the times, right? So
right.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so tell your biggest message. What is it? And also your quote, your favorite quote
my favorite quote. In that book, my favorite quote came to me. It says on the back of the book, life doesn't get any easier, you get better at it. And that came to me because I kept saying that to people, that even, and definitely when I was working with patients in recovery and difficult times, I kept saying, if you look back at it later, the huge mountain that you're facing right now, you don't dare to think about how even to start tackling that. It looks huge, it looks humongous. But if you look back, you actually already did it a couple of times. We don't realize that we have that frame of reference. We already did the things that we overcame. And then actually, when you look back at it, it looks fairly small. If you look in December and you're in your Christmas mode and things are good, and you're looking back at the horrible times that you went through in May or June, it is easier when you look back and you did it a few times. So I do believe that people come to me always, and this is the message. People come to me and say, life just got to me. I can't handle it. Right? As a coach, I hear this a lot. It's life's fault. Everything happens at the same time. And I immediately go over that with my famous coach approach. And I say, nope, it's not life's fault. It's the way you react to it. Right? And from there on, we're going to work on that. It's a mindset. What are you going to do with the information that comes to you? What are you going to do with the pain, the loss, the disaster? I get it. I grieve and I have pain and I have loss and all that and illness and people around me that I care so much for and that I worry about. But it is not so devastating that I can't see the outcome because it happened to me before. It has been done. And if life keeps being difficult, which it probably will be, right? And honestly, I mean, stuff happens. So it is our way that the way that we look at it, is it a problem or is it a challenge to overcome? Right? Are we going to keep facing it as a problem? I can't do it. I can't do it. Or are we going to change our vocabulary? That's what I do as a coach a lot. Change that mindset, change that vocabulary. How are we going to tackle it? How are we going to knock back? Are you going to be in your victim mode or in your victor mode? Right? So that's very important.
It really, you and I are on the same page on that, change your words, change your life is, my other books that coming out, Split Second Transformation. You mentioned your coach approach, and I know that you have a straightforward, I mean, like, you're not going to mince words. You're going to tell it like it is in your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's evident. And I think that for the most part, it cuts through the veil, the BS, and, just kind of gets you to the, to go, oh, maybe I didn't realize,
Yeah, people need compassion and people need to know that you understand, but that there's another look and not like, oh no, I get it, you're sick, you're sick, you're sick, go back to bed. No, I get it, you're sick, but get out, right? And there's a big difference between those two things and what we can do with it. There's a lot of compassion, of course, but there is a fine line between feeding in to the bad wolf or right, going
the bad wolf and the good wolf, which depends on which one you feed, right? So absolutely. And one of the things that I can't believe I didn't mention this at first, because it's just, I love this, is like, you help your clients get their sexy back and get better at life. So we haven't even said that, but I love that line. We're going to get our sexy back. And here we are in our, second half of our life, wondering, is this all there is? And look at me, what have I done? And how do you do that? How do you help get the sexy back?
So definitely, that is also the title of my next book, right? It's definitely that midlife where I have no kids anymore. They're not at home. What am I gonna do? I always tend to housekeeping, kids, family. I have no life. I have no purpose. So yeah, there's different things to it, right? I break it down and kind of finding a purpose, finding a new goal. What's your 5-year plan? What would you like? What would you like to do if it was just you and you had all the money in the world and nothing was holding you back? What is it that you love to do? Helping people find their sexy back, helping people find their passion back, really. Because if there's anything that you can do, it doesn't matter if you have another 20 and 30 years, go do it, right? It's going to be amazing. A lot of people come to that place, then working with me to where they find that place. And now I can finally work in the flower shop, or I can finally do something creative, or I'm going to write, or I'm going to paint, or I'm going to tend to the garden, or I'm going to work with my husband for that, or I'm going to stop working with my husband to work somewhere else, right? So that kind of thing, choosing you, and especially for women, is big. So with men, for me, it's more grief, trauma, PTS that I work through. With women, it's a lot finding your passion back, because they kind of lost it alongside the way. We are caretakers, we do that, we do that, we do that. We care, we forget about ourselves. So that's why I call it kind of midlife, right? It starts in the good years between 40 and 60, kind of finding finding that niche back.
Reassessing, just kind of reevaluating, reassessing, and yeah, I love that you have
Yeah.
a lot of people that you're helping through that. I know, so the time goes really fast every time.
I
So
know.
you've got some, you'd love people to get your books, 60 minutes, 60 miles from Neiman's. That's
Sure.
about 60
Yeah.
minutes too, right?
60
Unless you're in
minutes,
Dallas
60
traffic.
miles,
But
absolutely.
how do people find you, and what is your best
Mm,
best
I would love,
message? What do you want people to
what can
know?
I do today? I would love people to know that they can find me on social media. I would love people to find me on Facebook, Elian Haan. That's simple. All social media, Elian Haan, my YouTube videos, my shows. But I have a new Facebook group. In that Facebook group, I'm having a weekly 5 o'clock live at 5, where we talk about a new challenge, losing weight, getting healthy, different mindsets, stuff like that I teach. And that starts in October. I also have an offer, of course, for people if they are watching the show today in the replays. Please, if you want to work with me, please reach out. I will give you a free session. And in October, I also have an 8-week anxiety program starting. So it's always great before the holidays. It's 8 weeks, October, November, just before the holidays. And it's called Beat the Burnout.
Mm,
And if people are referring to your show, Charla, they're getting that for $199 instead of $299. It's an 8-week program. So I would
nice.
love to offer that today to say, hey, I watched the Charla Anderson show. I would love to join you for that 8-week material included, write handouts, and talking every week about a different subject of how to beat that holiday, that stress, that burnout, that crazy. Of course, it goes all year, right? But it's a great program just before the holidays. So
I'm going to spell your name ElianHaan,
correct.
because the podcast will be coming out in October, and somebody might just be listening and not have your name right on top of mine. So it's not ElianHaan, and you're all over social media. I'm sure that's your website as well, right? .com.
ElianHaan.com. Yes, absolutely. And if people come in a little bit later and they want to strike a deal with me because they saw the show, I'm happy to. So if they're coming in a little bit late for the course or want a free session, just reach out to me. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the Facebook group is called what?
It is called Thrive in Midlife.
Thrive in Midlife Facebook group. So that it seems like a lot. Everybody I know is like in midlife. How did that happen?
It's all around us. Yeah, it's all around us. We have people enough. We have people enough to refer to each other. So absolutely.
So what's next? You're writing a next book?
26 ways to get your sexy back. Yes.
26 ways to get your sexy back. Woohoo!
Yeah, lots of them. It's a very simple workbook, actually. It's not very complicated, but it has just really, it's about the words, right? The A, B, C's of feeling happy and feeling fulfilled, gratefulness, acceptance, right? Be in the moment, be bold, that kind of stuff. Respect, courage, all that good stuff, right? Little mini life lessons.
Yeah. So, and when do we expect that?
I'm trying fall.
Trying to get it in the next, before Christmas, hopefully.
Yeah, before the end of the year. Yes.
I know that it's a challenge to get those details complete, right?
And then writing is a challenge. You just really have to, right, get in that moment and sit down for a couple of hours. I preach planning and I preach goal setting, and that's what I'm trying to do, Charla, here. Just like a couple of hours here and a couple of hours for the book and couple of hours for the family, right? So
we preach. I mean, I'm like, if I'm telling you, I need to hear it. If I can help you understand something, it's because I'm reinforcing it in me. So often that's the case, right? I'm trying to give encouragement, and and I need it too. Encouragers need encouragement too.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a coach. Everybody needs a coach, and even people that are helping others needs to vent and help. I definitely learned that the hard way. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not we don't necessarily recognize that so often, where as encouragers and servers. I'm a server, we servers need
Caretaker.
We're going to take care of everything and everybody, and don't remember to fill your own cup up.
Absolutely. We got to.
I'm excited for what our future is going to be. I believe we will be collaborating and doing events and all kinds of stuff. We love Win-Win. We love Paula Fellingham. We love Win-Win Women. We love this.
Events, retreats together.
Yes. We love the, it's like generating new life and new friendships that are a different stage of our life. So
a new tribe, absolutely.
And it's not, you don't get rid of the old one, but you make new friends, keep the old one. It's silver and the other is gold. That old Girl Scout brownie song I used to sing for sure. So I love you so much. I was somewhere along the line, I was like, I didn't say the name of my show, which everybody should know because they're clicked on it, but I would love to see you next week on the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. And I'll just add that, we're always honored and humbled when someone takes the time to listen and glean. And if we can make a difference for you in any way, please reach out to Elian, Charla, our tribe. We know people, we've got resources, and we can help and make a huge impact, I believe. And we're in these unsteady times. We must have each other's back. So let's just keep on doing that. And you're perfect exactly who and where you are, no matter where you are. And if we just love people unconditionally without judgment, and the harder they are to love, the more they need it. So let's just keep lifting. Let's lift and win all together. So thank you for joining us today. Elian, thank you so very, very, very much. It's been hugely a blessing. And I want to just end by saying, choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.